What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Barely alive. Hello.
That's what's up. We are back for episode 81. We took a little time off, had some health issues come up, and so we wanted to take a break, 2 week break. But we're back. We're back, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, all of our notes are thrown out the window because of recent happenings.
Mm.
And we're gonna get to them in a bit. And you kind of know what we're gonna talk about if you saw the image or the title of this particular podcast, or if you've just been like living the past few days, you
Right.
kind of know what's been going on. With the Oscars and whatnot. So we're gonna get into that. But before we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about since we were gone, like just what we've been doing since then, and maybe talk about a little bit of news. Most of the show is going to be talking about the slap heard around the world, but before that, just a little bit of stuff. I got to watch all of the Ranking of Kings anime, which I think might be my favorite anime this year.
Oh, nice.
Similar to uh, the Crazy Taxi from last year,
Mm-hmm.
and totally different type of show. Was really interesting, and I won't spoil it because it's something that you kind of have to. A lot of the really cool bits you have to kind of watch to get,
Mm-hmm.
and because there's a little bit of a mystery surrounding everything. It's not a typical shonen anime, just like Crazy Taxi wasn't. And the character or the main character is a prince who is mutant and deaf. And
Mm-hmm.
so that alone, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting because he is in their world. They rank the kings based on their strength, based on their how they're managing everything, the amount of financial wealth and all these other things. And depending on your rank, you get certain perks and certain things. And so people are vying for power at different
Mm-hmm.
places or whatever. And so like the current king and the main character's name is Boji. His dad is a giant. Think of it like Loki. His dad's a giant, but he's really small, and his mom was a giant as well, but he's really small, and everyone looks at him kind of bad because he's mute and he's deaf and he's small. He doesn't have any strength like his dad does, and so they think that once he becomes king, their ranking is going to drop, and so that creates all sorts of chaos. From assassination attempts to fighting different like monsters and dragons and all this other stuff. Like it's really interesting on some like Game of Thrones type of stuff, but like better written. And the animation is amazing. I think that it's a little deceptive because it's very cute, kinda. But there's actually blood and gore and like people losing limbs and whatnot. So it's kind of like, oh, this is happy go lucky, and it gets real dark real fast. But overall, I think it's a really good story. I think you just have to kind of get over a few things with the character in terms of how do I put this? There's a lot of crying in the show. There's a lot of people like just kind of be like overwhelmed with emotion, and that could kind of depending on how where you fit on that register of emotion or watching people cry and whatnot, that might bother you a little bit. I know for me, it was like, all right, this is the 10th time you've cried over this thing. Like, can we move on? Like, it's come on.
Mm.
Certain things make sense, like someone died or whatever. But there was other times where like someone disrespected someone or you know gave them something, and they're like they were just so overwhelmed, and it was just like, all right, fam, like, come on. But beyond that, amazing, just really, really good. I should go ahead and check it out. I want to say the last episode aired last week for this season, so like the whole first season is done, and you can check it out on Crunchyroll, or well, actually, Funimation. I think Funimation is gone now, right? I can't remember. I think because Sony bought Crunchyroll and they like combined them, so like a lot of the
Uh-huh.
anime that was on Funimation is now on Crunchyroll. So
Mm,
yeah, go
okay.
to Crunchyroll and you can check it out. But it's definitely a dope anime that I think everyone should check out. Outside of that, I also got to see the first episode of Moon Knight. I'm not gonna talk too much about it because we're probably gonna have an episode dedicated to it, but pretty solid, pretty solid. I didn't know where they were gonna how well it was gonna translate because this is an MCU thing, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it. It feels separate, which is a good thing actually. And the Moon Knight's character is very difficult. He is, if you don't know who Moon Knight is, think like kind of like Batman if he was backed by a moon god and he has a split personality like disorder. So there's like two different people living inside of him plus the moon god that helps him out. So it's really interesting, and my only thing with it so far is how they're going to handle that. If they're going to be more realistic with his split personality disorder, or I'm not sure that's the right term, but or if they're going to do
Full
it more kind,
personality disorder, MPD.
yeah, or they're going to do it that way, or they're going to, they're going to marvel it up, or they're going to do a little bit of both. I'm not so sure, but I know that could be kind of a sticking point for people. If they're adding negative stereotypes, you know, and people would have to, anybody who's disabled who has to deal with these certain things, they don't want to be represented poorly. So that's my only qualm right now. But beyond
Mhm.
that, it looks pretty great. Looks pretty great. The first episode is out now on Disney Plus. Yep, Disney Plus.
Word.
Beyond that, not too much going down. I played Tunic. It's fun. It's like a cute Elden Ring, top down, Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
It's fun. It's mad obscure. I thought Legend of Zelda was bad in terms of
Mhm.
like how you solve puzzles sometimes. But like Tunic isn't so much like it's difficult to solve the puzzles. It's like finding out where to go. Like, okay, I beat this boss. Where do I go from here? Like, what?
Mm.
I don't understand where I go. But beyond that, I've had a good time with it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like complete it, just because there's a lot of games coming out all over the place. But the good news is it's on Game Pass. So if you have the Game Pass, you can check it out for free-ish. I'm doing air quotes. It's not free because you have the pass, but you don't have to pay for it separately. So,
Mm.
but yeah, that's been my week and some change.
Okay. Well, that sounds fun. Outside of me suffering from daily migraines, I which I have now. um, I listened to Dune on audiobook
Oh, nice.
and on on YouTube. Okay, because I just typed it in and there were several on there and I was like, "Oh, great. Cool, I'm gonna
Oh,
listen to
word.
this." Yeah, so I started listening to it the other day because I was cleaning and I was like, "Okay, maybe I can do this." And then of course I got tired and I just just sat down because I can't do much. Anyway, so I'm listening, I'm like, "This is great." And then I'm like, "Okay, it's time for me to go to bed." I typically go to bed at 8:30. Y'all leave me alone. So, I go to bed early. I turn the TV off. It's on YouTube, so I had it on the TV. I turn the TV off, which I'm realizing I shouldn't have done. And then the next day, I go to pick it back up again, and I can't because I can't find the video. So then I go into my history,
Right.
and it's not in my history at all. The
Huh.
video is gone. And I'm like, "What? This is so weird." So then I go and I search and I find another audiobook, the longer version actually, because I guess it has, like, 2 books together, I don't know. So I'm listening to this one. I remembered how far I had gotten in the first one, so I just did the same amount of hours, like, I had listened to it for, 8 hours, so I just, did that. So
Right.
I'm listening to the second, to the next this other video that I find that's like 21 hours. I think I get up to like I don't even remember. I literally can't remember which hour it was. It was I don't remember if I'd gotten to the 18th hour if I was still in the 14th hour. I just can't remember
Mm.
anymore. And I'm like, you know what? I it's my bedtime. I need to go to sleep. And so I do that. And the next day when I go to turn it back on, again, the video is gone. Can no longer find the video, it's not in my history. And so I'm looking all over YouTube for Dune audiobook, and it's completely gone. Like, you can go on and then I, like, logged in from a different account to see if it was just that, and I'm like, "You know what? Maybe it's my, um, what's it called? Like, IP address or something."
Right.
So maybe I have to use a VPN next time because I'm just sitting here like, wow, what happened? Or like, did the video, because I didn't remember I didn't take note of the channel that it was on.
It might have got
So
a strike or something, and like
it
like 'cause I know like especially considering Dune was up for all these awards and whatnot.
Mhm,
I can see someone or a company being like, hey,
mhm,
put take that down or whatever.
yeah,
Especially considering it was two different videos.
mhm. It was, and mind you, like the first day that I had searched, both of those videos were present. They were on there, but I was like, "Oh, this other video is really it's 20 something hours." So I was like, maybe that's like two books, or it's like I don't know. It's the other two videos were which were by the same poster was part 1 and part 2. And then this
Hmm.
one, I guess it was just all maybe it's 21 hours to read the whole book. Whatever. I don't know. But when that first video ended up going away, then I was able to watch the second one, and then that one disappeared too, and I'm sitting here like I am really hurt because I'd gotten so far. I feel emotionally attacked, like very personally attacked. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
working better for me because like I've told you before, reading itself is harder post concussion. And I used to never really listen to audiobooks because I am the type of person who really does need to see the words on the page, know how they're spelled, and that kind of stuff. But honestly, I was really getting into it. I really was. I was really getting into it, and I was like, this is great. This is good. This is awesome. And I actually had more respect for the movie while I was listening to the book because the movie actually, I mean, give or take some things that they changed, was doing pretty much what was in the books. Like they weren't really
Right.
diverging like, the 1984 movie kind of did because that was its own thing.
Right.
And so I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But then somebody destroyed my dream by I I feel I'm very disappointed, and I've been feeling very empty for the last couple days, and I'm searching frantically, fervently, and on YouTube for this video. I cannot check the book out like ebook from any of the libraries because there's a waiting list of 75 people
Yeah.
from, and I'm like, for the ebook, like even there's not enough physical copies to go around. Like I don't even want to go to the library and borrow the physical copy. This thing has been in 600 people's hands in the last 4 months alone.
People and
Like it's gonna be destroyed by then. Like,
right. I could tell like because like I said, it was up there. The film came out and like because no, my wife listened to the audiobook. I
yeah,
had given her for her birthday
mhm,
um like audio like what do you they're I forgot what they're
Audible.
called, but they're like tokens. Well, no, it's not
Mhm,
audiobook. It's like Libri or something like that. But
mm,
the app basically allows you. They gives you tokens. So like when you get a subscription, and this is not an ad, but when you
mhm,
get a subscription, they give you tokens, and those tokens can be used at any time. And so like if you get a 3 month subscription, you get a token each month, but you can use them at
mhm,
any time for any book. And so that was one of the books. And so she listened to it before we actually watched the film.
mhm,
Um, so I know it's like that's been a thing. Like people are just like, I gotta, it's award season. I want to be able to talk about this stuff. Let me
mhm,
watch the film, but then I also want to, be able to say like, oh, did it follow the book? Was the book better? So yeah, that
mhm,
tends to happen around this time. I'm pretty sure the same thing happened with, Lord of the Rings or whatever the case may be. Like people just wanted to jump
mhm.
into the book,
I don't know,
but
it
that
just made me mad
sucks.
be I tried to watch it. I mean, I tried to listen to it last year when my doctor told me that I should listen to audiobooks, but I fell asleep.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was there before, you know what I mean? It was there a long time
Right.
ago. Just that finally, after I watch to 15, 18 hours of them. I mean, I shouldn't say watch, there's nothing to watch. I'm just listening to like 15 hours of these voices act out this book. Then somebody just takes it from me. And
Yeah. That's a
I'm
lot of
in
time to
pain.
invest.
It is, and then I'm looking on Audible because I can get a free book if I do my free Audible trial again, because I've done it hey, I do my free Audible trial, but I'm like, "But why would I wanna get Dune for free on Audible when there's only, like, 3 hours left?"
Yeah,
Like, I wanna
yeah.
listen to Three Body Problem. Three Body Problem is what I'm trying to do, and I can't get there until I finish the first book of Dune. Please tell me you understand what I'm going through.
No, I've had now. Granted, this is a book, but I have had a
True.
similar experience when it came to games. I
Mm.
remember playing in college. I had played and granted, I had played it before, but Mario and the Seven Stars RPG, dope
Mhm.
game, and I didn't own it prior. I had I rented it, and like back in the day, you only got like a day, or if you're if you paid a little bit more, you got a couple of more days, but you didn't have it for very long, and RPGs are long, and so I never beat it. But like I was in college and I was playing it. I had a copy emulation, and
Mhm, mhm,
I
mhm.
my save got corrupted, and I
Oh.
accidentally so like I always save in two spots,
Mhm.
but my save got corrupted, and so I had saved right after, and or I forgot to so I saved my save got corrupted, so I went to the second one, but the second one was really far back. I was at the final boss, and my second
Final
save was like
boss.
hours away, and I was like, nope. I just like uninstalled it and was like, I'm done. I
Done.
can't.
Yeah.
That
Totes.
sucked. I understand it. I totally
Yeah.
understand. Goodness. Well, hopefully you
Mhm.
will be able to find the video, and you will be able to finish the book, and instead of wasting a free book, maybe you could do that for the second one.
I know.
Beyond our week's events, we also want to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the gaming space. One quick thing that happened today was that the E3 was canceled. We already knew that they weren't going to have a physical show this year because of COVID,
Mhm.
and they decided not to have a digital one after being going silent for however long. And yeah, people were like, ah, they were kind of bummed about it. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, Jeff Keighley, who is, he has the Game Awards show and all this other stuff, he was quick to share that the Summer Game Fest will return this June.
Okay.
Basically, his own version of E3 that he did last year.
Mhm.
And it was crazy because he had it everything up and running like seconds after it was announced that E3 was no more. And we knew what it was.
Uh,
We knew what it was. Like he was like, we're gonna be doing this anyways. I'm pretty sure E3 is not happening. He probably spoke to someone behind the scenes or
mhm.
whatever because it was like within a minute of like there was a whole website and everything ready to go. And so it on one hand I'm like a little bummed. They did say that E3 should be coming back next year. And I know just having gone to E3 myself and what that experience is like, I get it. Totally get it. It was a staple for a very long time. At the
Mhm.
same time, the fact that digital works, like being able to have these videos and everything streamed and people can kind of see all of E3 without having to fly somewhere, like for us
Mhm.
halfway across across the globe. And yeah, it's just way more convenient. Like it's just way more convenient to be able to cover it from your house as opposed, or saying remotely, as far as traveling. The only qualm I have is that everyone has to have their show now. Like the Summer Game Fest, that's going to be great. I think IGN had a summer thing too, and a few other, maybe Games Radar had a summer thing. But after a
Mhm.
while, it was like everyone had a show, which made it way more difficult to cover all that information. With E3, it was like you had a week. That's it.
Yeah.
Get your stuff out in that week. If you don't, you gotta wait till the Tokyo Game Show or whatever the case may be, or if when Microsoft had their private event or whatever the case. But now it's like, oh, no one's doing anything. We could have a show. You have two games, fam. That's
Mhm.
all. You could just announce this. Like you don't even have to have a whole videos and talking and all this other stuff. Like it was just bombarding of information over however many weeks. I hope that doesn't happen again this year, but at the very least,
Mhm.
I'll check out Jeff's show. I'm not following all this stuff. It's just too much. Like
Yeah.
one show, E3 was hard enough to cover if you're a small group with all the announcements because it's not just. I mean, it's mainly games and other entertainment and stuff like that, like consoles and whatnot. But
Mhm.
there's other things that go on because the week is hot. So you want to get, it's a great time to get your stuff out there, get your name out. But with all the tiny shows popping up,
Mhm.
it's like, nah, I didn't even know that you guys had a show. I was watching something else when this was happening. You know what I'm saying? So that's my only qualm right now. I do think E3 needs to pivot. They need to do something different.
Mhm.
The big, open show floor with all these people coming and whatnot. I don't think COVID's going anywhere for a
Mhm.
while. So if you don't want another year of of cancellations, because it's all that's money. Like to be able to show your stuff at E3, you have to pay. All the
Mhm.
commercials and all that stuff you have to pay. Setting up your booths. So I'm pretty sure outside of things being handled, in terms of like all the eyes. Like I don't, if I'm like Square Enix, I don't have to draw the eyes to me. I just go to E3 and bring my stuff. But I had to
Mhm.
pay. Whereas now I do have to make my own videos and whatnot or piggyback off someone else, but I don't have to pay for a booth. I don't have to pay for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So I I don't think E3 is going to be the same going forward. They need to figure it out. And I think taking a year off is a smart move. I think it's a
Yeah.
smart move for that. Beyond E3, we also want to talk a little bit about PlayStation Plus. So, the new PlayStation Plus was announced a few days ago, whereas PlayStation Plus Extra, PlayStation Plus Premium is basically something that's trying to run parallel to the Game Pass from Microsoft. Plus Extra gives you everything from Plus. I said Plus twice. Plus, or in
Hey,
addition to
sounds correct to
PS
me.
Now, right? In addition to PS Now, which is basically you get to play online with friends, and you also get PlayStation 4 games to play. Some PlayStation 5 games. They've boosted the catalog to up to 400 games right now. Also, some third party games that are going to be rotating in and out. And then you have the premium bundle or premium plus, which will be an additional 340 games. But these games are coming from the PS3, PS2, PSP. Some of them will be, you can download them to the console. Some of them will have to be streamed. For instance, the PS3 games, all of them, I believe, have to be streamed because the hardware is just wasn't compatible. It just, you can't, they haven't gotten to the point of emulation like Microsoft yet. So they're like, we're just gonna have to stream them via your PC or console. So I don't know how they're gonna play, but at the very least, there's the option. A lot of people felt the way because it was like, one Sony was like, we're not gonna have our first party titles there day one at launch, just like Microsoft is. The pricing structure and all this other stuff. And for me, I think it's good regardless. I think it's good because if you don't have access to these things, if you can't physically pay for all the games that you want to play, being able to have like some sort of subscription that allows you access, even if it's 6 months later, that's really cool. It's
Mhm.
also great if you're a little fuzzy on the games. Like for instance, playing Game Pass or games off of the Game Pass. There's been a ton of games that I've played where I'm like, you know what, this isn't for me. After however many hours, like I'm good, I'm done, and just kind of left it alone. Whereas if I paid $60 for that, I'm like, I guess I need to play this because I spent
Yeah.
$60. Like,
Spent some
you know what I'm
money.
saying? Whereas this is kind of like the Netflix, type of thing where like you can just hop off of a show. Who knows? You might come back. But if you don't, it's all good because there's something else to play or, to watch or whatever the case may be. And so I think it's a good deal. If you want to play or, you want to kind of, if you already have PS Now, there's really no reason not to get this. And if you have PS Plus, you're only paying a little bit more a month. And I do
Mhm.
think they have a yearly option, which Microsoft doesn't have for the Game Pass, that actually cuts down on the price a little bit. So not bad. And it's PS3, 4, and 5, and PSP games, and PS2 games. Oh, and PlayStation 1. So a lot, a lot. You get a lot of games. They didn't show exactly what games they're going to be. They also said that certain games won't be available in certain markets. So I would kind of wait till it launches to kind of like, start buying a bunch of, cards or whatever, PlayStation Plus cards. But you can't, it wouldn't hurt. Like if it means we get another slot, get a chance to play Sly Cooper again, I'm down. Bring back Brave
Okay.
Fencer Musashi, please. That would be great. That would be great. Now, with that little bit of news out of the way, I want you to start this off
Do
with
you?
the Oscar
What?
slap. Because here's the thing, right?
Mhm.
I don't really. we're gonna talk about it because we have to. But I don't really
Mm-hmm.
care so much about the slap anymore. I care more so about how people are responding to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm gonna get in my bag on that end. But I do want to kind of hear from you first because,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked my wife how she felt about it and everything. I know a lot of black women are like, are championing what Will did. And if you don't know, Will slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars for for joking on his wife. And we're going to go into it, but that's
Mm-hmm.
the basis of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I know like a lot of black women had a lot of stuff to say, and I'm not speaking for any of them. So I kind of want to hear what you have to say before
Yeah.
I, jump out the window.
I think Will's an asshole. So there's just that. So there's
Violence
that.
was
Sorry.
chosen.
Violence was chosen in my word, but I used words. Okay.
Right.
Will Smith is an asshole for that. That's just stupid. It's literally dumb. But like so basically I didn't know this had happened because I didn't watch because I don't have live TV. And so obviously I found out later and then I had to go
Right.
back. I saw the clip and I was like, "Whoa." And for 2 seconds it was funny. 2 seconds. I mean, and I'm not even joking about this. It was only funny for a fleeting moment that he got up on stage and slapped Chris Rock because of a joke. You know, it was only funny because it was almost in a cultural bubble at
Right.
that moment. It was like a cultural bubble of of I don't know, a cultural black bubble, you know what I mean?
Right.
Until that bubble disappeared immediately and I'm like, "No, no, 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 wait a minute, no, 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 no. No, everything that just happened, please rewind literally, God, you exist. Rewind the clock at the axis of time and erase this. I don't whoever's in the TVA right now, you need to fix the sacred timeline. This should not have happened."
Right.
As a black woman, you know, black women always have a history of feelings with our hair. And so
Yeah.
when somebody comes for our appearance, it's it's visceral. It's deeper. And so but I me personally hearing that joke, I was like, "Oh, that's cold." Like it wasn't even that funny of a joke. It was just like, "Oh, that's cold." But to me, I did not think that it was this offensive, horrible joke that some people were playing it out to be.
Right.
Um, Even when Tiffany Haddish ended up, she got interviewed after the show, I believe, and she said something that it's not that what she said hasn't happened. It's not that that experience isn't true, but it was just like she was sitting there being like, I kind of hear what you're saying, you know, because the joke, yeah, I mean, if you didn't hear the joke, obviously, but he's still like, Jada, I love you. Can't wait until to see you in G.I. Jane 2. And everybody knows Jada has a shaved head.
Right.
I This is the first time I'm hearing Jada has alopecia. I did not know Jada had alopecia
Same.
until and people are like, "Oh, she's been so public." Well, I'm not up in Jada's business. After the whole entanglement stuff, I don't have anything to do with these people. Like, I'm not interested. I'm not. August Alsina want to drop a whole album, have songs called Entanglement. I'm like, get your business out of my face. I don't watch Red Table. I've only seen a few episodes of Red Table, and that's because well, mostly it's on Facebook and I don't have Facebook. So, but
Yeah.
I've seen a few episodes of it and it's not really for me. You know what I mean? It's not really like my tea. Like I don't necessarily like really vibe with it, like love the show or vibe with the show. I've seen a couple of episodes and I'm just like, oh, it's okay, but it's not something that I would put my effort into. Now, back to the
Right.
joke. I personally I have a skin condition which causes alopecia around my hairline. And I know that if I was a public figure, if I was a famous actor or whatever, and a comedian got on stage and said, Tessa's nickname is Tinkerbell because if you get near her, you're gonna be covered in pixie dust. Like that would be hurtful. Like it would hurt me. But I'm not gonna. I'm. It's a comedian making a joke, and that's what they do. They make jokes. So I'm not going to sit there and hope that my husband gets on stage and tackles the man, whatever. Like I personally, he made a joke about her appearance. Whether you like the joke or not, whether you think the joke was a low blow or not, it is what it is. The reaction to me was just ridiculous. Now, one of the things about the joke that kind of I thought was actually clever was he made this G.I. Jane joke. I don't think it was just her appearance. Like her appearance is what drove the joke. That was the vehicle for the joke. But I also think it has something to do with Jada not being a leading role in any movies lately. Like, okay, so she was in Girls Trip, but she didn't steal the show in Girls Trip. Tiffany Haddish stole the show in Girls Trip. You know what I mean? Like, when's the last time that Jada was a lead role up for any type of nomination? Jada hasn't been super popular in film for a really long time. So if you go back to 2016, when he made the joke about
Her not
Jada
being invited. Yeah.
not being invited, it all makes sense. His method of joking was layered. It was multi-layered. So if her husband is sitting there being nominated for Best Actor with a very high chance of winning, she hasn't been in any leading roles. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really think she has been in any super leading roles where she's been close to being nominated for anything like this. G.I. Jane was a monumental movie for Demi Moore. Huge, monumental movie. So for him to even say, can't wait to see you in G.I. Jane 2, clearly her look and her, she's also wearing green, but like the shaven head and everything, the joke was multi-layered. It was actually clever. So when people are just sitting there being like, it's superficial and he's attacking a woman for her looks, I'm just like, y'all chill, just calm down. I think you missed the joke. And that's why he defended himself and said it was a G.I. Jane joke. Like, but anyway, that's why I'm saying I personally don't think the joke was that bad. And 100%, I do not believe that he knew she had alopecia. And if he did know she had alopecia, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have made that joke because he's not like that. That's out of character for Chris Rock. I think his intention was to continue on the tradition of ragging on Jada and Will. Jada and Will have been the subject of not just recent controversy, but they have been joked on these award shows a lot of times. Remember when they did remember Mr. and Mrs. Smith when they hosted and they did the Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing, which was actually funny. And then they're making fun of each other. She's like, he goes, you did woo, and she's like, you did Bagger Vance or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, as your career, your professional acting career is what fed the comedy. And then 2 more points I'd like to make. Chris Rock came out there on stage and was joking about, he was directing his jokes towards the couples. And I thought that was funny because, he goes after Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal, who, everybody knows are not married. Hello, they're like not married, they're brother and sister. And that was funny. And then he goes after my favorite couple on the planet, Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz. And I loved that joke. I thought that was hilarious. With him being like, yo, Javier, you can't win if your wife doesn't win. If she loses, you can't win and you better pray that Will Smith wins. Again, I thought it was clever. It wasn't necessarily the best delivery, but it was the material for the joke, the jokes, plural, were clever. Also, stepping back an hour before, Regina Hall, one of the hosts of the show, had made a joke also at the expense of Will and Jada, because Regina Hall was asked, Regina Hall had made a joke a little bit earlier than that about her being single. Like when the hosts were introducing them, Amy Schumer introduced herself, Wanda Sykes introduced herself, Regina Hall goes, and I'm single. Instead of being like, I'm Regina Hall and I'm single, So then a little while later, she comes out on stage as a host and says, hey, I've just received this really important information. we have a COVID scare in the building, and then she starts calling out names, and she's like, Jason Momoa, Timothy Chalamet, and calling up all these at Simu Liu, calling up all these very attractive and very well known to be single. I mean, Jason
Right.
Momoa is questionable men up on stage. And then she's like, I'm going to give you a COVID test. It just involves me sticking my tongue in the back of your throat. Like, she's being crass here. And then she literally says, I missed one. And she goes, Will, like, I know you're married, but Jada says that you can come up. So, and she's making a dig at the fact that Jada publicly cheated on Will and they're still together, basically saying Will's allowed to cheat because you cheated first.
Well, I
You
don't know if
know,
they cheated. I know they had that, they were separated at that one point, and I know Will said he was there's been
done
no
with her.
like with that, but then he also was like there wasn't he didn't find it that it was cheating since they had separated. But no, the joke hits though. It's like
Yeah.
we've had all this stuff with August Alsina, and it lands because of we know your information, we know your
Yeah.
business. You put it out there.
You put it
August
out
puts it
there.
out there, so it makes sense within the writing of a joke. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It
I guess my point is, it's like all of this has happened, and then up to this point, and then Chris Rock says what he says, and and then he's like, hey, it was, he's like, first obviously he's like, I love you, to soften the blow. I think he was just trying to be kind. They're also in the front row. Like, when you're in the front row, it's much easier to joke somebody who's in the front row than all the way in the dark seats where you can't see them.
right,
Like, so everybody knows that that's part of the show. But then literally he says the joke, bunch of people laugh. Some people are like, oh, that's not cool because she has a buzz cut. Like, that's not funny because they're not seeing the layers, which I've just explained. But then Will laughs at the joke. And I don't care. Like, I hear people are saying, oh, maybe he was uncomfortable.
right,
Maybe he didn't know how to react. And I'm like, that didn't look like an uncomfortable laugh. There were other people who didn't necessarily find the joke funny who showed uncomfortable laugh in their face. He seemed to, he laughed at the joke. Jada clearly just rolled her eyes because she wasn't having it.
right,
And then obviously then we see what we see. And every instance of that was just so, it's just so upsetting because as a Black woman, understanding where, like your question and being like, how do I feel as a Black woman? I'm like, of course, I wouldn't want somebody making a joke at my expense because of my hair, even though you signed up for this. Like, this is part of the job. Like, if you being an actor and getting nominated and being in the front row and whatever your appearance is, mind you, Jada looked amazing. Like I said, didn't know she had alopecia. The shaved head looks so good on Jada, like better
right.
than I ever knew that it could. I mean, Jada always looked good with short hair, but she looks amazing with the shaved head. And so, like, nobody could say, like, she was one of the best dressed people that night. That dress was amazing. So it's just like, I don't know, but I'm sorry. Then to also go back to what Tiffany Haddish had said, Tiffany Haddish made a comment where she was like, basically, I understand like the anger, the outrage, or whatever, because like she's like that used to be a joke when people would joke a girl for having a shaved head, like they were basically saying that she was a lesbian. And so, like, I can understand why she would be pissed off, and I can understand, like, basically Tiffany Haddish was kind of honestly saying like, um, Chris, you had it coming to you if you're going to say something like that. That's what it felt like when she made that comment because she was getting interviewed. And I do think that after days have passed, there are a lot of people who are taking the time to rethink their opinions. Because if
Yeah,
you listen to a lot of the people who were interviewed that night, they would say, I don't condone violence, but sometimes you just gotta, and I'm like, what? No, no.
yeah, yeah. That's
Under no circumstances. So for real, just like, coming from me, again, I will love a ride or die partner, but what disgusted me, not just like in that exchange, is that we see, you can literally look at Will's reaction, like how he laughed, how he seemed fine. And then next thing you know, he just gets up and starts walking on stage, slaps the shit out of Chris. I mean, that is a pimp slap if I had seen one. And then turns around and the camera's on him. You can see his face. He's literally smirking. He's smirking. It's not even a like just angry. There's a smirk on his face, and he like fixes his like lapel or whatever, and then walks and then sits back in his chair. And then this anger wave comes up where he, screams twice, "Keep your wife's name out your fucking mouth." So loud that he didn't even need a microphone for the entire theater, for the entire Dolby theater to hear it. And so it's just so disgusting to me, because even Jada sitting there like, mm-hmm. Like, do you have an invisible dog chain on this man? It just made me sick, because like I've seen other women who are in relationships. I'm not saying, that there's a domestic situation going on here, but where I even myself been in a situation where you're with somebody and then they get real loud, belligerent, and violent, right? And
Right.
it's embarrassing, but B, it's typically like you try to calm that person down and then remove them from the situation type stuff. That's not I don't feel that that's what I saw. I don't feel like that's what I saw with Jada and Will. It was almost just like the show went on and, they held hands, and it was just like that. It just couldn't have been me. I would have
Yeah.
had to I would have gone to the back with him and been like, "I love this shit out of you, and I love you more for standing up for me. But we can't be like this in public," type thing. And that's not what happened. So it just made me, I was just disgusted by the both of them, and disgusted by everybody who gave him a standing ovation. Who's standing up for Chris Rock, for crying out loud? I don't care if he gave a bad joke. I don't. But like, damn. I'm riding for Chris Rock this whole way. I have such a headache even thinking, like it's giving me such a headache, but I'm like, did anybody check on him? Because everybody was like, "Will, you all right? Will, you all right?"
Well, I can kind of understand that a little bit because and I'm actually going to speak on this a little bit later too. But like him, we've never seen Will do this outside of that time where the guy tried to kiss him at the red carpet,
Mhm.
which I'm like, yeah, smack him. But
Smack him. Yeah,
um,
I mean, that's your personal space.
right, exactly. Um, so for me, the problem I have with a lot of these conversations is that there's always the extreme. There's
Mhm.
nuance here. There's a lot of
Mhm.
nuance here, but we skip over that. Number one for me, and this is something like I don't think the joke was super bad,
Mhm.
and the reason why I don't is because of at first I was like, this is a tasteless joke if he knew about it,
Mhm.
but then it comes out, I think it was like on TMZ or something like that, where a person from Rock's camp was like he didn't know, and for the people who are like he should have known or whatever, like you said earlier, we don't watch the red table. It's on
Mhm.
Facebook. I try my best not to be on Facebook.
Mhm.
And honestly, I've only seen like 3 episodes, and one of them was because of August, not because of you guys. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to see the response, and that was because similarly to this, it was all over the
Mhm.
place. Like I couldn't get
Mhm.
away from it. So I'm like, okay, they're gonna make a response. They're gonna say something. Let me at least go see it so I know what all the memes are. I know what
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the,
yeah.
what I'm saying? But outside of that, I don't check up on the red table, and I don't follow her anywhere on
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah, me either.
If she's not in a film, I don't know what's going on. Or breaking news or something like that. I just don't know. So this I found out that she had this condition when Will slapped Chris. So I'm not
Yeah.
I can believe that he didn't know. I can
Mhm.
100% believe that he didn't know. And then I can also believe that he didn't know because it's not in his character. Unless someone can show me where he punches down purposefully
Mhm.
on, especially on black people, I don't see it. I
Yeah.
just don't. It's usually a thing where like we've gotten this out of our system. The people have moved on or moved past it, and then I make a joke about it. Even with her, like the whole thing about like you're not invited or whatever the case may be, that might have rubbed her the wrong way because she felt like she
Right.
was standing for something that she believed in at that
Mhm.
time. But it's not something where it's malicious. These aren't
Right.
malicious jokes that's coming from Chris Rock.
That joke was funny as hell. I laughed so
It
hard
was
on
mad
that.
funny,
It was so
and
funny.
it was not malicious. And that's the thing. I don't think there was any malicious intent when he said this joke. And the
Yeah.
fact that he didn't. No makes Will looks, it makes him look
Worse.
worse. No,
Mhm.
he shouldn't have smacked him. Let's get that out of there right now. No,
Mhm.
he shouldn't have slapped him. Now I want to. Now that I got those two things out, I don't think Chris
Mhm.
Rock knew. I don't think he was being malicious. I don't think Will should have smacked him. Let's
Mhm.
address all these different things that are popping up because
Yeah.
my biggest deal was what was happening after the fact. And I made some tweets myself, and I was saying he could, maybe he could have checked him after the case, or maybe he could have just yelled from his seat. All those things are defending his wife's honor. He doesn't have to
Mhm.
go straight to violence to defend
Yeah.
someone. That is a
Yeah.
shield that people use. It's kind of like, how when someone says, only God can judge me, or, God sat with sinners, and, they
Mhm.
say these things because they're about to do something asinine. Like,
Mhm.
you basically said that God sat with any human, essentially, is what you're saying. That doesn't give
Mhm.
you room to do whatever you want. Saying that you're defending someone does not give you the room to do whatever you want, because you can,
Right.
if I could be like, I'm defending my wife's honor and shoot you. Is that okay? Is that cool? Because you did something that I felt was disrespectful, whether you knew it or not.
Right. This isn't like
I'm allowed to
Alexander
do whatever.
Hamilton and Aaron Burr. Like this isn't,
Exactly. This is not the same
no.
thing. And I'm not saying that the slap was like the worst thing that ever happened to Chris. I'm not saying that. What I'm
No.
saying is that that doesn't give you the okay to do whatever you want because you feel disrespected. That's not how
Right.
that's what children do. We are not
Yeah.
children. On the flip side, though, there are things that you could say to my wife in my presence that will get you hurt.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to pretend, and I'm not going to be like violence is never the answer. I'm not going to say, because that's what we do. We go to the
Mhm.
to the extremes. Chris,
Extreme.
um, you know, Will Smith should have never hit him. But then for you to be
Mhm.
like violence, especially from some of y'all white people, we're gonna get on that. Talking about
Just the
violence
way
isn't the
you said
answer.
it.
Be the same people who'll be like, well, he shouldn't have been wearing a hoodie. He shouldn't
Right.
have ran from the police. He shouldn't have. And then because there's measure, like this, there's a measured
Mhm.
response. The only time there isn't a measured response is when you are panicking, or when you are so angry that you can't see straight.
Mhm.
And but outside of that, there should be a measured response. He could have said something back, right? But
Mhm.
the people who are like, no, violence is never the answer, will push the most violent things to the smallest of crimes, or the smallest of you
Mhm.
know disrespect. Will go all the jump all the way out the window. And I'm like, really? That's what you're saying? Did this slap hurt
Mhm.
you? I felt bad for Chris.
Yeah. A
The
lot.
fact that and this is like, just call it toxic masculinity, or whatever you want to call it. I For someone to hit me and for me to just take it, I have a problem with that. And I'm not
Mm.
saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying that you shouldn't turn the other cheek. I'm not saying that unless someone's beating on you, obviously you defend yourself. But for me to get hit, I'm putting myself in Chris's shoes, to get hit in front of the world,
The whole
and
world.
and I can't really do anything about it. I can't really even say my piece because this dude is screaming at me. I don't know if he's going to
Mhm.
get back up. I don't know how are we handling this? There's no one there
Mhm.
to back me up. No security coming. Nothing. I just take it,
Nothing.
and I'm like, so I just have to sit with this. That this just happened. As for me, I would have a really rough time with that.
Yep.
Uh, just
And
just just whatever. Because as much as people say that, well, if Will didn't smack him, it would be like he wasn't defending her. He wasn't responding to the disrespect. Chris didn't respond. He didn't get
nope.
that chance. I
Nope.
felt, and you could tell, like when he got hit and how he went to put his hands up to defend himself, and then he put his hands behind his back, and it's like I just kind of we're like it dawned for like, hey, I could fight, but we're on TV. This isn't the place to do this. This
Right.
isn't like, what are we doing right now? We could have a
Mhm.
conversation, easily had a conversation, and I would never joke about it or whatever. Who knows? But you didn't give me that opportunity
Yeah.
at all. You just slapped me, and then I have to continue the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I am saying that there are times where a violent response can be dished out. I'm not
Mhm.
opposed to that. I'm not even 100% opposed to Will actually getting physical if they had a conversation off stage. If they had a
Right.
conversation off stage, he was being disrespectful. He wasn't trying to hear things. Things led to being to an altercation. Not mad at
Mhm.
that because you
Mhm.
tried to do it you try to be amicable about it.
Mhm.
But that wasn't the case. Wasn't the case at all. You
At
you basically
all.
blindsided him because you laughed first. Let's be
Mhm.
honest, right?
Yeah.
But let's go past that a little bit though.
Mhm.
He shouldn't have hit him, and I don't think Chris was necessarily bad for the joke. But even if he was, let's say he knew that she had a medical condition, and he made the joke. Your actions have consequences. This
Mm.
is something that I think people miss, and this is something that people miss, especially if you're black, which is alarming to me. Now I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. They're both rich. Will Smith. There's probably nothing going to happen to Will Smith.
Mhm.
There's probably outside of like a fine or something like that. But I just know from a black standpoint that we don't have the luxury to do whatever the hell we want. We get
Nope.
hemmed up real quick as soon as and that's why I'm not surprised that Chris Rock didn't press charges. People are thinking like, well, is Jim Carrey was like, it's because he didn't want the
I
hassle. No,
I heard.
a lot of us don't want to deal with police or have police deal with black people because we know what that could lead to.
Mhm.
There was a point in when I was in college. I was walking with my wife, but she was my girlfriend at that point.
Mhm.
She was walking me back to my dorm, and someone said something that I didn't like, in her direction, and I turned to confront them, and she grabbed my arm and was like, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, this person was farther off, so like I would have had a while to think before I got up to them, but I was happy that she did because I like later thinking about it, hindsight and all that good stuff. I'm like, what happens if I did do something? Would I get kicked out of
Right.
school?
Right.
Would what if he because there had, and not to say that there's shootings all the time, but there have been shootings at the school when people like fought or whatever, and people
Mhm.
have lost their lives.
Mhm.
There's also the fact that what happens when I'm not around and that person, let's say I beat him up.
Mhm.
Now my wife is walking to class and I'm not around. What happens then if he runs into
Mhm.
her?
Yep.
Like there are consequences, but then even beyond that, if the police get involved, I'm not expecting to be treated well.
Nope.
I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of consequences, and then going even further, like what do you do? Do you react this way to everything that anybody says about your wife?
Right.
You're gonna be fighting all the freaking time. I'm not saying people are disrespecting your wife all the time. That's not something that happens. Hopefully, that's
Mhm.
not something that happens. But it has to be measured.
Mhm.
Like I'm like, you know what? Let's walk away. Let's get out of this space. Let me address him in this manner. Let me, hey, can you not do that?
Mhm.
Depending on what you say, and also your proximity to me, because I have time to think. If I don't have time to think, you might get hurt. That's just
Mm.
what it is. But
Mhm.
so, in me saying that is saying like I can understand where someone does something verbally because like words hurt too.
Yeah.
Abuse, you can be verbally abusive, but how I respond, I would hope would be measured based on how they made my wife feel,
Mhm.
not based on just her being disrespected. Because
Mhm.
there's been times where potentially disrespected by a boss, by a coworker. So if I go and
Mhm.
knock him out, my wife loses her job. Like
Yeah.
no one is thinking about these things. It's just, oh, like he, good for Will because he backed her up.
No.
Okay,
And if
no.
that's like for real though, if that's, and this is why again I'm saying I'm disgusted with Jada too, but if that's the kind of support that Jada's looking for from him, that's toxic.
It
You know what I
is.
mean?
It
That's
is.
horrible.
Let's keep it a buck. It was, you assaulted someone. Like I know we don't want to
Yeah.
use that word because it's a slap, and if any of us who've been
It's
in any real
fuck
fisticuffs,
it. It's an assault and a battery. That's what it
exactly.
is.
Like if we're just the definition of words, I know we don't want to use
Mhm.
that word because if you've been in a real scuffle, like
Mhm.
I have, I
Mhm.
wasn't too shaken by the slap. However, it is what it is, and it's on national TV. It's out there. All right,
Mhm.
like this is what it is. The fact that he didn't get escorted out of the building, the fact that he was able to still, I don't even care about him winning the award, but the fact that
Mhm.
he could get up and actually they allowed him to speak.
Yeah.
Like you have to understand, you assaulted someone who is working for
It's
us.
working.
How is that a thing? Like trust me, if anybody, like if we were doing this live, if someone looked at
Mhm.
Tess wrong, it's a problem. Like, yo, get them out of here. Like, there's no
Mhm.
way. We're not, there's
Yeah.
no conversation. We can be on the phone later, but there's no way I'm letting anything happen to someone who works for me. And
Right.
I say nothing and do nothing. All that, like, we don't condone violence, that's out the window. That
Right.
is out the window. That's the one thing that I agree with Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey is not a saint. I don't
No.
believe in this ad hominem thing where like we bring up their past. I get it. I get it. They've done bad things in the past. That does not negate what he's saying right now. For them
Mhm.
to be okay with Will smacking him and then sitting back down and carrying on with the show, that's what is that saying to anyone?
Exactly.
That's really really bad. That's really bad. And if you get off of your high horse for a second in terms of, and I'm not talking about the white people. I'm
Mm.
talking about the people who are cheering Will on. If you
Yeah.
just think about that for a second and what that looks like, if
Mhm.
someone disrespects you at McDonald's and you pull them across the counter, and then the manager comes and gives you your food and is like, you're okay, you can sit down and eat. You need
Like,
to leave that. You
you're
just
nothing but a mobster.
exactly. You're either they're afraid of you
Yeah.
or they don't care about their employees.
Yeah.
There's no wiggle room there. That was
Yeah.
mad disrespectful.
It
And stop. All right. We got that out of the plate. We got that out of the way. Now I need to talk to you people about how bananas you've been about this slap. Yes, Will did something wrong. And I think Chris is more so the victim than he is or anybody else is.
Yeah.
However, for you guys to go off the deep end about Will, someone called Will Smith a thug. In what planet, what universe is Will a thug? And
Right.
because we know what that is, we know what that's code
Yeah,
for.
it's code for.
Or people are like, this is, why do you bring race into it? You're doing this. When you're saying like, oh, Will Smith should be jailed and he should get all these other penalties and he's a thug. Who let him in the building and freaking was it Judd Apatow was like he could have killed Chris and we had another guy who
Just said
likened
that?
he said that he said he
What?
could have killed Chris. And what happens is this it starts to turn into it's about you. We had a comedian, I forgot her name. She was like, I'm still shaken by it. And I can't even think and blah blah. And I'm like, really? You didn't get hit.
Yeah.
You didn't get hit. We had another guy was like, this is as shocking as 9/11. Like this has the
Who
same
said
shock
that?
value as seeing on TV. This slap is the same as the shock value of 9/11, like witnessing that live on TV. Okay, sir, I was in high school when that happened, my social studies class, ironically, and it was on TV.
Mhm.
We had heard about the first plane. My teacher turned on the TV, and just any channel didn't matter, and
Mhm.
we saw the second plane hit. And
Mhm.
my shock was there's the shock of what's happening. Then there's the realization that I had family members in adjacent buildings. There's the realization that I'm watching people jump from burning buildings. Like I don't if Will went up there and shot him, it wouldn't have been as shocking as seeing planes hit buildings.
Right.
Like who
Right.
are these people?
Like, who would say that?
The constant just like I feel like there's a divide, and you can kind of tell the people who are like, I don't really like what Will did. I don't like what Chris did, or I side with either or, versus what a lot of white people are doing right now about how they're centering it on them, how they're trying to have the most extreme take ever. How there's a whole write up about how called the Will effect or something to that effect, where it's
Mhm.
like, we can't act like Will if we go to help Ukraine. Like there's someone who wrote
Yeah. What?
a whole article about potentially us going to war and not being the Will Smith in this conflict. I don't and what? And then you had like it just kept going. I'm looking at tweets and which are now deleted. We had someone was like,
Yeah.
what if what if he slapped, Betty White or Bob Saget? Not only are you're putting up situations that would never happen, because they
Yeah.
wouldn't say those things, nor would he go and slap Betty White. But you're
Yeah.
also using dead people who passed for
Yeah.
points.
At what point?
Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And then it's like, because I made a comment, I was like, you know what? Will Smith cannot set us back. The last person who could have done that was Barack Obama. If we got a black president and he just went just bananas in the White House and did a whole bunch of coonery, yes, that would set us back because it's someone in the of that stature. But Will Smith, if Kanye hasn't set us back, there's no way that Will Smith has done it. However, I was like, I wish he wouldn't have done it on TV because this just it fuels
Right.
racism, where the
Hmm.
white people are like, violent rage, that's and it's like two steps away from saying black men are this. That's basically what they're doing. It's coded. That's why when someone says thug, I look at them funny because I know what
Hmm.
you're trying to say. You can't say the other word, so you use thug, and you position it, contextually in your sentence to make it seem a way. Like it's good for you because you can feign ignorance, but we know what it is. We know what it is. No one on this planet should be calling Will a thug. That's
Right.
not what he is. That's not what he's ever been.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a
Like
yeah.
there's just a lot of that going around, and it got sickening. It got to the point where Daniel Radcliffe was like, "I'm just tired of it. I'm tired, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna add my like he's tired of you guys too. Like he,
Mm-hmm.
he's tired of it too. But it's just like, oh, you don't mind being racist. Like you don't
Yeah.
mind just saying whatever, and we knew that for a while now, but not necessarily from celebrities, not necessarily from blue checked people. It's
Yeah.
the average white person, whatever, or average racist white person, whatever. But yeah, you can be disappointed with someone without going off the deep end. You can be
Yeah.
disappointed without calling them thugs and you know just being racist. You can
Yeah.
definitely do that. It's possible. I the person
It's
who now the person who
excuse me.
compared it to 9/11, he should be slapped.
Yeah, that's slap worthy.
Yes.
We're gonna have a whole new like award show where we put things in categories of slap worthiness.
Right.
And like this will get you slapped. Like this will get don't say this will get you slapped. Or just, say this and then we'll have a professional slapper come out from the behind the curtain.
Hey, I'll hire Will. Hey,
You know?
I need
Maybe
you. This is
that
this is a warranted slap, Will. Go ahead. Right here.
yeah, there's so many things. Like there's just so much to unpack. And I know like a lot of people are tired of talking about it because it's Thursday. Like this happened on Sunday.
Right.
And I mean, you guys are hearing this on a Friday or whatever day you're listening to it, but you know, but it's interesting because even I watched Jimmy Kimmel's show from last night, and of course he's still talking about it. Jimmy Kimmel's show is on ABC and it's in Hollywood, so like
Right.
he's still going to be talking, and he's talking about it to all his guests. Like he had Donald Glover on. Even Donald Glover was like, I don't even really want to give my 2 cents in any. He's like, I don't, but he did like a little bit, and of course he was just like this. He was like, that was stupid. Like that's kind of
It
wrong.
is.
And but I really like when Jimmy Kimmel was talking about it, I really appreciated what he said. I mean, a lot of the first of all, I have not seen everybody, all of the night hosts, all of the comedian hosts who host the talk shows and stuff, but most they're all comedians. So they're all in the same community. So comedians are
Right.
saying they're the ones they were the first people really who were speaking up because all the actors and people who were in fucking Dolby are sitting there giving Will a standing ovation and all this stuff and being like, yeah, what da 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 da, and then talking to the cameras afterwards and being like, I don't condone violence, but like it's like none of you are making any sense right now. But then you got the comedians who are sitting here like, do I need to be worried? They're literally all saying one of our fellow comedians did his job, delivered some jokes, and then physically got attacked. Like we know we're comedians, we know how to deal with hecklers. We know how to deal with stuff, and there's typically security around who can deal with stuff, but no one, and this is a good segue into what I'm going to talk about, but no one in production had any idea of what Will was doing. You know, just like when Kanye
Right.
walked up on stage and grabbed the mic away from Taylor Swift, nobody knew what was happening. And the team, the people who are all the production team who's around, they're just sitting here like, Kanye's walking up on stage. Is this supposed to happen? They don't even have time. They're probably radioing to people like, Kanye's walking on stage. Is this supposed to happen? People are like, huh, 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 huh. And then you hear what Taylor Swift said. She was like, she wasn't as super popular in her crossover at that point in time. She was still super popular in country, but just really becoming popular in pop at that time.
Right.
And so she's sitting here, she literally said, "Oh my God, Kanye's coming on stage with me. This is amazing. I'm fangirling." And then he makes her feel like trash by saying she shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
And like, this stuff is not supposed to, we're not supposed to happen anymore. Even when that happened, Barack Obama was on camera, quote, off record, because he said off record, but he called Kanye West an asshole for doing that, because that's not cool. You could have,
Right.
I don't know, whatever, but Kanye. But what's upsetting on top of everything in this situation is that Will Packer produced the Oscars. This is the first time a Black man has been the solo producer. It was an all Black production team based. I mean, I believe so, but basically it's a Black production. And everybody knows Will Packer. He did Girls Trip. He did, everything. We all watch Will Packer stuff.
Right.
He puts a lot of people on the map. We have great respect for Will Packer. And I think this is the first time where two Black men are nominated for Best Actor. You've got Denzel. You're in the same. Denzel is being nominated for Macbeth, for all things. First, like, I'm like, oh my God! When I saw that clip of him in Macbeth, I was like, he should have been in a category on his own and won. Because the last time I saw a really good Macbeth, well, it was Ian McKellen did Macbeth way back in the day with Judi Dench, and that was amazing. But I shouldn't say amazing. That was a long time ago, and it was a really poor production because he wore a leather jacket the whole time. Not the point, guys. Not the point. I'm digressing. The point is the production. So the production of this elaborate, you know, Carfunkel, whatever, is it. Will Packer and his team produced this amazing show. He had his own vision. He
Mm-hmm.
changed the format, the timing of the show. This is like a 4-hour debacle. Everybody always says the Oscars are too long, but he managed to he did a 4-hour show, put it into a 3-hour time block, but still managed to get all of the awards that we typically don't see, like all the awards that we deem unworthy or of our time that typically
Right.
happen off camera. He let all of those winners still be on camera. They filmed that part an hour before the show, an hour before the televised show started. So they were able to do that and then still work all of those scenes into it. He wanted to make sure that everybody was seen. My point is, Will Packer and his team put a lot of effort into making this an amazing show. We had 3 hosts. We had Regina Hall, we had Wanda Sykes, and we had Amy Schumer, who are amazing. All of them are amazing women. It was, I think everything was great in the fact that I feel like the like format kind of changed, because you know how usually the host comes out all the time after something. And in
Right.
this time, they almost let a lot of the presenters be hosts.
Right.
Like, I think some people may have been confused and thought that Chris Rock was actually hosting. Like, if
Yeah, a
they
lot of
only
people
saw the
were.
clip. Yeah, they saw the clip and they thought he was hosting. It was like, no, it's just like, but the presenters were given the amount of time. Like, for example, Kevin Costner gave a very long speech for the Best Director nomination. And it was almost like each presenter was hosting their segment, which was really interesting because that's a very elaborate show. Like the viewership of the Oscars has been down for several years, and Will Packer's whole plan was to make sure that viewership went up this year. And thanks to Will Smith, it did. because apparently they said, was it like 56% people tuned in after the slap? So it's like there was
Yeah.
already a bunch of people watching, and then as soon as the slap happened, everybody called all their friends, and then millions of people tune in after this happened. And I mean, that also kind of says something about society, but whatever. My point is that I'm very concerned about what this means for the production of this show, because as we know, like we just said, Will Smith he did not leave. He
Right.
was still allowed to sit there the whole time, for the remainder of that, because that was in the last hour of the show. He was allowed to sit there the whole time. He was given his Oscar. He won the award, given his Oscar, allowed to do a really, really long speech, and got a standing ovation from a whole bunch of people, had the nerve to sit there and talk about being called on by God to protect and be this massive protector, this, that, and the other. And saying that, he's coming from a place of love, and I protect my family and all this stuff, and then cried all about it. People are sitting there, all this stuff. Like it just, to me, was just so angering, because this is all happening. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, didn't what he did really could jeopardize, first of all, like, Will Packer production going forward for this. Like, what if Will Packer wanted to produce the next Oscars this year? Like, let's just say I'm in the Academy, or maybe I'm not in the Academy. Maybe I'm just a regular viewer. Maybe I don't want to see another Will Packer production because you and your people and the Academy didn't seem to think that it was smart to get Will out of the building after committing an assault and a battery on an employee, just like we were saying earlier. And
Well, I
so,
mean,
hmm,
I was gonna say, like, and that's just like from a career standpoint. That's
yeah,
that's like a, but Will Packer actually said that, um, because he made a joke like after it
hmm,
happened. He was like, "Well, I said that I said it wouldn't be a boring Oscars,"
mm,
and some people were upset because they were like, there was an assault that happened, during your show, and so he
hmm,
responded, and he was like, "Black people have a defiant spirit of laughter when it comes to dealing with pain," which is true. Whenever something bad happens, for the most part, outside of dealing with it, we deal with it, but then we
yeah,
also joke. There was a lot of jokes. There was a lot of memes that happened after the slap because that's how we
yeah,
kind of deal. Once we have our anger or sad moment, we turn to laughter. And so that's
yeah,
what he was trying to do. But then he also followed that up with, but I also, and this is me quoting him,
mhm,
but I also don't mind being transparent and say that this was a very painful moment for me on many
mhm,
levels. Because
yeah.
it's like, this is my show.
This is his show. Hmm.
People that I respect are here. And two of them had an altercation. One of them slapped the other.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, and he's like, this is my first time doing this.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's, so now I look bad. Like
Yep.
even, maybe I didn't handle, and this is me saying stuff, not him now.
Yeah.
But like,
Hmm.
maybe I didn't handle it well because I didn't know what to do. Like
No,
who
either. Yeah.
thought that this was going to be, that Will or Denzel or whoever was going to actually touch anyone? You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? This is not, no one prepared for this. You know what I'm saying? So like, I had all these huge moments. There were people who were talking about how the slap kind of overtook the, Questlove getting his award for his
Yeah.
documentary.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, dang, like we wanted to be talked about, but not for this.
Not for
You
this,
know what I'm
and
saying?
this is what's going down in history. Like, this is what some people have said. They're like, so a joke that Chris Rock said, whether it was in poor taste or whatever, it would have been forgotten. Like, nobody was going to remember that. Nobody fucking cares. Like, no, like, I'm being just like I've said before. This is no shade to Jada and everything, but it's not that interesting. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
he says a joke, okay, G.I. Jane, whatever, people would have forgotten it in 15 minutes, whether or 2 days. They wouldn't have cared. It would have been on film forever, but nobody would have cared because it wasn't that great of a funny joke like the old one where, the one where she wasn't invited to the Oscars. Like, that was funnier. But again, a lot of people even forgot about that until now. So
Right.
something that would have been forgotten, Will ruined it because this will never be forgotten. Nobody's ever going to forget. History's never going to forget the day that Will Smith slapped a man and won an Oscar all in the same within the same hour. It's not going away. And it's so upsetting because that night was such a win for people of color. It was such a win for queer people. It was such a win for diversity. It was such a win for every marginalized community, the deaf community, everything. There were so many good things that actually were coming together at this Oscars. It really, really, really was. So much diversity in the nominations from the cast just to the films that were up for Best Oscar, Best Picture. There were just so many stories. And Will Smith slapping Chris Rock is overshadowing, and not just because of the slap, but it's just every little thing is not getting its attention. People aren't going to sit there and talk about how great Troy's speech for Coda was, and that it was done in sign language and he had an interpreter. They're not going to talk about how amazing that was. They're not going to talk about how, we don't talk about Bruno. Nobody's talking about Bruno because they're talking about Will Smith. Like, the stories that should have been shared from that night are overshadowed to the point where, they're revising their jokes. Like the fact that they had some of the hosts, had to come out, not hosts, but the presenters are coming out trying to lighten the mood because of what's going on. Like Diddy seemed so out of place. I don't even understand what was going on there. But like
he was trying to make amends. He was trying to get his Denzel on, but he's not as smooth, unfortunately. And
smooth at all. It was so weird for him.
I do want to say before we go on, because Will Packer did say that LAPD was called and that they asked Chris if he wanted to press charges. This was while the show was still going on.
Right,
they were ready to arrest Will. So I'm not going to say that absolutely nothing was done. I don't want to put that out, but I still think he should have been escorted to leave. There was a rumor that he was asked to leave, but they've actually refuted that and said that they didn't ask him to leave. They basically left it up to Chris, and Chris was like, basically, no, don't worry about it. I'm fine. I don't want to press any charges, et cetera, et cetera. So they did try to do something. I don't think it was enough personally. I don't think he should have been arrested. I think that they should have been like, you have to leave though. Like you don't got to go to jail, but go back to your hotel or go home. I want to say it's, you know what I'm saying? Like go home, but don't stay. Like it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Or go to the back and then wait till it's your turn to come up. It's something.
I feel like, and of course I'm not in charge, and I know a lot of them we've both been a part of very large events, and everything is moving parts. So there's a lot of things that happen, but we've watched the Source Awards. Okay, we've seen security.
Right.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? We've seen it. We saw. Well, essentially we saw, but we know because there are photos of what's her face? What's her name? Cardi. We know that Cardi B was escorted from the Met Gala because she got into an altercation with Nicki Minaj. Like we know that happened, and she was asked to leave. Like it doesn't matter if she was goaded into the fight. That doesn't matter if Nicki said something to her and Cardi went to correct it, but Cardi threw a punch or whatever. She was the one who had to leave, and the several $100,000 dress she had got ripped. Like what are you doing? But my point is security did their job, and not just security did their job, but production did their job. And Anna Wintour, I believe, told her she can't come back. So I think that's the case. But even in this situation where clearly certain individuals knew that Will was winning the award, I'm not gonna it's not like Will knew he was winning the award. It's just there are only certain people. Like there's because they nobody knows except PwC. But it's weird for me to not think that the producer of the show knows who wins, but they have to have an auditor. Like there's an auditor somewhere, because remember like when Moonlight really won, but they called La La Land. Like there's an auditor that knows that's there, and they were able to say, hey, all you La La Land people, the movie was not that great, get off stage. Sorry, it just wasn't. I was
Ah,
highly disappointed. But anyway, my point is, if there was somebody who knew he was going to win and wanted him to stay in the building, then he should have put him in a green room somewhere with Jada. You could have asked her, he said, Jada, you didn't commit a crime here. So do you want to stay here or do you want to go back in the room with your husband? It's up to you. It doesn't matter. But he needs to go into the room until he is called. If he doesn't win the award, then he stays in this room. If he wins the award, we have staff. We will walk him out. He can receive his award, give a very short speech, which should be an apology, and then he can walk back off stage again. And that's
right.
it. I was just so upset when I watched it. I was just more and more feelings of like rage inside of me because I understand that it was a difficult situation that hasn't happened before. And I know everybody was confused, but I'm just like, not enough was done. It was just kind of this idea like the show must go on, the show must go on, and negating the fact that violence really did happen in front of so many people. And the backlash of that is people didn't do enough. People
Yeah.
didn't do enough because kids were watching the show. Children were watching. They didn't have enough time to bleep stuff. Like, it's all over the internet. The whole world, not the whole world, but a lot of people see. I'm just upset because I'm like, what did you guys try to do? We've even seen the commercial break footage, the commercial break footage with all the actors, Bradley Cooper, Denzel Washington, people going up to Will and talking to him and being like, hey, did I die? You gotta like la la la, yeah, all that stuff, whatever, and comforting him and all this stuff. And I'm just like, at any point, where were the people saying, hey, I understand your lot of like, okay, let me do this real quick. Again, I still think he's a dick. I still think he's an asshole for doing this. Like, I'm so pissed off and I'm so pissed at Will Smith right now. I can't even watch King Richard. I hadn't watched it yet because I had, headaches, but I'm not even going to watch it anymore. I'm not. I feel like if I was Serena Williams, if I was Venus Williams, if I was Richard I would be so angry. I just would be so mad, especially with him going up on stage, receiving the award, and then being like saying, I got to protect my family like Richard did. And it was just like, I would have at that point I'd be like, nigga, don't associate yourself with me right now. Not right now. Not no. It's such a freaking shadow. There are already people. It like Serena didn't slap Chris. Venus didn't slap Chris, but this little moment with Will slapping Chris in a role that has to do with people are always dogging on Serena. You know what I mean? Drug tested her at every 5 seconds, saying that she's aggressive because she got angry at the judge that one day and said she was going to shove a tennis ball down his mouth. She didn't. She didn't. The worst Serena's ever done is break her racket. But now this movie that's associated with her father, her sister, her mom, Will Smith running around slapping niggas across the face. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad on so many levels. Some people, it's just
Yo, Richard,
so
and it's crazy because Richard came out and was like, we don't condone that. Like, as soon
Mhm.
he made the statement, like, I'm trying to be like Richard, and Richard's like, I didn't do that.
No.
I I don't want. And granted, I didn't watch King Richard because I didn't want to see something that glorified how he was potentially as a father. Like,
Mm.
I don't know the situation. I'm not the Serena, I'm not Serena or Venus, but
Mhm.
I know that a lot of that, it's almost like if we watched and I'm not saying he's this particular person, but if
Mhm.
we were watching the Jackson 5, film,
Right.
and it was all about the father though, not
Right.
the 5. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to. It's granted it worked out, but it was very abusive. You know what I'm
Very
saying? So like,
abusive.
I didn't want to watch it for that reason, and that
Mm.
either that they were gonna glorify the abusiveness or
Mhm.
that they were gonna shed away from like being realistic, which is apparently what I heard
Mm.
happened. But beyond that, like, yeah, like to have him say like, no, we didn't agree with that, and we're not cool with you smacking people, or
Mhm.
basically don't put your hands on people, is what he said.
Mhm.
Makes the acceptance speech, as messy as it was, even worse.
It's so bad in so many ways because of all of the things that he actually said, like, and when he was crying and saying and explaining what he was crying about, and it's like, dude, like I do not appreciate the statement. I don't appreciate most of the things that he had said in his speech. And again, I'm going to say it again, all the people standing. I'm like, were you standing because a black man won an Oscar? Were you standing because Will Smith finally did a role where he played somebody who wasn't Will Smith? Because we all know all of his roles are Will.
Pretty
Like,
much.
because that's I really want to, because again, I no longer can watch this film. I can't watch it because I'm just so mad at what happened. And again, like, I even okay, like I said, I'm extremely mad at what happened, but like, even in that moment, even with Will sitting in that chair and hearing, everything that's being processed, the grace that I can give him, the benefit of the doubt that I can give him, is this is one of the biggest nights of his life. All of this work finally paid off. He's gone through a lot in the last few years publicly. And then even, with the whole thing, he gained COVID weight and all that stuff. Like, he's
Yeah.
just been so raw lately. He's been so raw recently about so many things. There's a lot of emotions going on in his personal life. And again, I'm speculating because I'm not in his shit, but that moment, like, a lot of the people who are winning awards, especially if it's their first, it's gonna be their first award. Like, I think he got nominated for Ali, right? But I know he didn't
I
win. But
believe so.
yeah, like, and again, one of the criticisms of Ali was, oh, it's just Will Smith.
Well, nah,
Like,
he did a good job.
I didn't
He
watch
did a
Ali.
really good job.
I went,
It was one of the only films where I'm like, nope,
right,
that is someone else. He did a
okay,
really,
good,
really good job.
good,
But
because
yeah,
yeah.
his,
And
his
hmm,
he had, like you were saying, like emotional baggage.
hmm,
He had the book that just came out,
yeah,
the weight loss journey that blew up,
hmm,
issues with his wife and August
hmm,
Alsina,
hmm,
all the stuff that they should go on. And then also on her health, her side,
hmm,
him making sure that she's okay.
hmm,
Um, all that stuff is daunting, and all that stuff
hmm,
can make you do whatever. And that's the
hmm,
thing. It's okay for me to be like, Will Smith shouldn't have done something, and still be like, I understand you as a person. That
hmm,
does not negate how we handle it. It's like,
right,
and granted, I go back to my children because it's easier for people to
hmm,
kind of understand those parallels. But if my daughter is frustrated with her sister and she hits her, then I'm like, okay, you're gonna be in timeout, or you're gonna be grounded, or whatever the case may
yeah,
be. But I'm also gonna be like, what happened? How did we get
hmm,
here? And then help you process that. I'm not just gonna be like, you know what I'm saying, because something happened.
hmm,
So I get
yeah,
that he's going through something, and I can say, like, you know what, Will needs therapy. He needs, to maybe
yeah,
get out of the public light, stop doing all the live content or whatever,
yeah.
and kind of work on that. So I don't, we don't need to condemn him to whatever, but that still doesn't excuse his
No.
actions. And there should have been some type of, he should have been reprimanded in some fashion. I don't think we need to
Mhm.
take the award, but
No,
it
that doesn't
should
make
have
any
been, yeah, it should have been something to where it's like, okay, what you did is not okay, and not just a statement after the fact. It
sense.
should have
Yeah.
been like, no, you cannot do this.
You
You know,
can't you can't get on stage and then apologize to people and then not apologize to the person you hit. Like, one of the things that really bothered me, and this is why some people are saying he's narcissistic and stuff, which, if I'm being fair, like, never mind, I'm not going to go there. Um But I'm just not, because, like, you know, you look at celebrities have personality types, and you already know that about them. Like, but I'm just not going to put that here right now. But like, in this situation, he does what he does, and I told you, like, I understand all of the things that are compounding at that moment, and a lot of the stars, especially if it's their first award and it's something they truly, truly, truly want. I mean, there are people there who've literally won 7 awards already, like, in their
right.
lifetime. So this is just another thing, and you can tell because they're typically the ones who get up on stage and they're like, "Yay!" But no, like, some of these, especially this is the highest achievement. Um, these people are very stressed that night. They are under so much duress, and it's a 4-hour show for them, not for us. Like, but they're literally in there. It's long for them. I've heard celebrities talk at length about how a lot of them don't even like going to the award shows. Like, it's so much effort for them. So like they're under a lot of stress,
Right.
and a lot's going on with them, all of them. Like this is why some people break down. That's why some people can't stand up when their names are called, or like there's all kinds of things that happen and that are happening in that moment. And we all understand that. So again, it's how you react. But like we said, like just the little, it's almost like, were you mad at yourself for laughing? Were you mad that you didn't immediately jump to Jada's defense? Like all of that shit. And again, like we've all come up with alternatives. Like it could have been funny. You could have walked up there and then whispered to him and said, "Meet me outside, nigga." Like, you know, and then Chris Rock could have kept it going, be like, he just told me to meet him outside, y'all. After the show, selling tickets to the Chris Rock Will Smith fight beatdown. Like, you know, like anyway. We're not going there because clearly it didn't happen. That's not what happened. It didn't happen.
Clearly.
It could have. It should have. It didn't. But it's just, I don't know. I lost my train of thought where I was going with this, but it's just all very, very, very upsetting to me. It's very disappointing. I don't know. I think I was trying to explain like the long term. Sorry, not long term, but the like what people are feeling now. And I like, oh, I'm sorry. Now I remember what I was saying. So, one of the things I'm really upset about with him, he gets back on stage. Well, first of all, he spends the remainder of that hour yucking it up or whatever, doing whatever he's doing. He's laughing at other jokes. Even Amy Schumer comes out and does that little joke that she did, which was actually pretty funny. Him and Jada are laughing. He does not seem to be in any emotional duress at all, whatever. Almost like nothing, you know? Hey, I smacked the bitch. She deserved it type shit. Like that's how I'm so serious. Like that's how he is. That's his demeanor for the rest of the time he's on camera. Whether or not that was his demeanor during the commercial breaks, I can't really say. But then he gets on stage, he gives his speech. I don't care for it. I'm, you know, whatever. And then in some of those things that he said, which I feel are very hypocritical, apologizes to the Academy, apologizes to other people, doesn't apologize to Chris, says he's being called on by God to do X, Y, and Z, says, you know, he's a protector, this, that he wants to move forward and love X, Y, Z. And then, you know, cries about it, gets off stage, the show ends. And then he goes to the after party and is literally dancing with his Oscar with all these people, and everybody's making their comments and, you know, did whatever. He's like living his fucking life like it's the best thing. Like everything is so,
Right.
yeah, it's the best thing. You just won an Oscar and assaulted a person, and people ever want to dance with you and take their pictures and sing Getting Jiggy with it. Like, so then what is it? A whole day later, a day or two, whatever, that he releases the Instagram statement, which was clearly written by his publicist. Like, even when he walked off stage, his publicist was crying with him or whatever. He releases an Instagram statement that says all this stuff, and this is not the man that I want to be. And it was just some of these things I was like, if you were 25 and you did this, like if you were young, you know, when people are saying, oh, you know, like, you're not 25, you're 53 years old. This is really upsetting, right? Because you're an effing adult. You've been in the business a really long time. You've been the subject of jokes. You've been the comedian joking other people. You've made bald jokes yourself. So shut up. Like, it's just so, it just feels hypocritical. But then we get to this point where I'm reading this Instagram post and I'm like, so you then once again did what other people are saying. It's like, oh, you know, I reacted in violence and I should never do that. But, you know, when I basically, like he said in the speech, love will make you do crazy things. No. Okay. You need help. And then, but then in the Instagram post, it's like, you know, but when somebody comes for my family or my children, then I react. That's not an apology. That's not an apology.
Yeah.
You can't say, I'm so sorry, I reacted in violence. I shouldn't have done that. But when somebody comes for my family, you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. That's basically what he said. That's not an apology. And whether Chris accepts it or not, I know people will be like, okay, if Chris is okay, if Chris is this, then we're okay. But we're not, because Chris is not the only one. Chris got slapped, but he's not the only one who experienced it. And that's another thing that you learn in abuse, where other people, especially people who have been in abusive situations, and I'm not saying Will is an abuser, under no circumstances am I saying that, but when you witness these things, this is not a movie, this is not a drama, this is real. And you witness these things, there are other people who are now affected by this whole thing. It's so large. It's such a large thing. And I'm not trying to be extremist. I'm not trying to be alarmist or whatever. I'm just saying that, like, just like we were saying earlier, it's gonna keep getting bigger because of how many people are actually affected. The viewers are affected. The production team is affected. The people who are in the audience are affected. I mean, there are people right now who are sitting there like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have given him a standing ovation. Wow, you know what? My reaction was probably, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people are really
Yeah.
rethinking their whole behaviors because they're like, I cannot believe that I was in any way, shape, or form. Okay,
Like
you know what I mean?
complacent or like,
So,
yeah. And that's
Lupita
that's gonna happen.
Nyong'o,
Like,
like, her face was amazing that whole time.
yes, it was. It was. I think that, I mean, because even Chris and because we'll end it here, but like because he has his stand up, he's starting his stand up tour,
Yeah,
and people were in the audience expecting him to say something about it, and he was like, "I'm
he's
still
still
processing."
processing.
He's like,
Mhm.
"I'm still like," and I think that's what a lot of people are, and I think the more people process, I think it's getting murky because of all the hyperbole. Like people just like, this is the worst thing that ever happened to television. Like that stuff is making it a
Yeah,
little hard. But once I think people had time to like sit and think about it rationally, they'll be like, you know what, it wasn't good, it wasn't right. We
mhm.
don't want to end anyone, but at the same time, this should definitely not happen again. We should
No,
not be celebrating, you know, someone getting slapped. Um, outside of when it merits that, like Chris's actions didn't merit that, especially with him not
no.
knowing that she had a medical condition.
Mhm.
um it's just not right, it's just not.
Yeah,
And it's just
he
like we
gets
would
to
tell
keep his
anybody
Oscar.
else, right? Let him keep the Oscar. He
Yeah, he
apparently
earned
earned it.
it,
Like it wasn't
apparently,
like
yeah,
it wasn't like he slapped Chris and they were like, we better give him this Oscar before he beats us all up. Like it wasn't like
right.
that. He had already earned it. Let him keep his Oscar, but there
Yeah.
should definitely be, I think they're going to do some type of sanction or fine. He
I
might
think just
not be
don't
able
let
to
him
come
come back.
back,
Yeah, that's it. Like, that's it. Like, he can be, if he's
or
gonna
it'd be like
continue.
a year off. Like it doesn't even have to be like a permanent ban. Just be like, you know what? Next year you can't be here. You can't be in attendance. You can't whatever. Because then it's like, all right, that
Well,
hurts, but it's not something where you're forever scarred type of thing.
the only issue with that is that not everybody gets invited every year. I mean, he would get invited. You always, if you win, you get invited the next year because you'd be a presenter. But, like,
Right.
not everybody gets invited every if they're not involved in film. There are many people who aren't invited or don't go because, there wouldn't be enough room. But,
Right.
like,
Exactly. Exactly.
you have to be invited. So, like, even if it's just, oh, you can't come back next year to present, like, who the fuck cares? Nobody want, like, I'm just saying. So I won last year. I don't want to come next year and present. Who can, like, why would I want to do that? That's a vacation. I do think that it needs to be a little bit more serious, especially because they did nothing, especially because they let like, literally let him go, let him stay the whole time, let him get his Oscar, let him party, photos, like, red carpet treatment, literally, like Prince treatment, King treatment, the whole way. Like, after that, like, I would be like, you know what, well, it's not like you can get nominated, you can win, but you can't come back. No, like, he's not banned from SAG. He not banned, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. I
it's
think
not.
that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I think also because I know a lot of people were like, they listed off all the people who've won awards who've, were, accused of sexual assault, you know, abuse of, child abuse or whatever the
Mhm,
case. And while I agree with that sentiment, I
mhm,
do think there's an idea of like, when do we start? Like,
mhm,
if that's what it's going to be, where someone does something wrong and then you bring up the past to say that it's
mhm.
okay, then we will never change. Like I'm not
Yeah,
down with that. Like the idea,
yeah,
like like my kid getting caught with something, and they're like, well, such and such did it. It's like, well, they'll get in trouble next time, but we're gonna
mhm.
start here because you know better. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, I don't think Will Smith in the back of his mind was like, hey, this one actor did this, so it's
Mhm.
okay if I slap Chris. He wasn't
Yeah,
thinking
no.
about that. You know what I'm saying? So while I understand that in terms of hypocrisy, it doesn't work here. And
Mhm.
especially with Will Packer being the producer, like someone else is actually producing.
Mhm.
Yes, we can start. If you assault someone
Mhm.
in any degree, you are
Mhm.
gone,
You're
and that's just it.
escorted. That's
You
it.
c- you know what I'm saying? So, with
Mhm.
that note, thank you for hanging out with us, listening
Mhm.
to us talk about this. We know that some of you
Ramble.
are tired of hearing about Will smacking Chris, but it just made sense, and I don't think anybody would have listened to the other things we wanted to talk about, anyways, considering that everyone is talking about this.
It
So,
is.
we will be back next week talking about all sorts of stuff. So definitely
Mm.
check back in. If you're listening on YouTube, feel free to hit that bell, or well, subscribe and hit the bell so you're up on all the new content coming out. Also, make sure you go back and check out our last week's episode, which is a special episode when we had David F. Sandberg on. We had a
Honey
great time.
Smasher.
Yes, Pony Smasher. We had a great time. He actually DM'd me. We spoke,
Yeah,
and he was like he had a great time as well.
that's
So
awesome.
who knows? We might get him back on the show.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having some other directors. James Gunn, I'm looking at you. Jordan Peele. Uh, I've actually already tagged them, so hopefully that works out. But yeah, I I definitely want to do that again. Definitely want to do that again. Had a great time. Definitely go check
Mhm.
out episode 80, Smasher of Ponies. It was a great episode. But also, if you're checking us out on Spotify, on iTunes, Google Podcasts, all those different places, feel free to subscribe, add us to your RSS feeds so you know when we're coming out with more content. For all the new people, if you're still here, we talk about games, anime, manga, movies, etc. We talk about
Mm.
all the stuff, except for
Mhm.
music. Sometimes music, not
Sometimes
not very
music.
often, not very often.
We
But
will though.
beyond that, we talk about everything. So definitely make your way back here, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody. No, wait. So you know what was I'm telling you, my brain is not okay. I have pain medication. I'm just I hope that I sound coherent because I was just really passionate about this because I'm sorry everyone if especially if I'm repeating myself. I just feel I'm so angry about this situation. It really is it actually has affected me. So so I don't feel like myself. So yeah, before I say goodbye, remember to wash your hands, please, and your butts. And wear your masks, please, people. I mean, I know they're saying no mask, but COVID is still a real thing. So, you know, just be smart and be courteous to others. And that's really it. Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And I hope you check out, last week's episode, just like, well, last time's episode, just like you said. And yeah, that's it for me. Now I can say goodbye. Thanks for staying with us for another episode. Bye bye, y'all.